Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Can you hear me all right in the back up there? Give me it. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we'll take a moment to begin our time together as usual, with your feet flat on the floor. Bless you. Bless you. And take stock of your breathing this morning. It always amazes me how something so simple can really give me a lot of information. If I can't get hold of what my breath is doing, that probably means that other things are going on in life that are also out of my control. So how can I gain control of those things that by my awareness? So as you breathe, become aware of your body. Recognize that every molecule that makes up your body existed before it was part of you. Every water molecule in your blood came into your body in the form of something you ate or drank. Picture yourself sipping a cup of tea. While it is in your cup, it is not your body. And then you drink, and now some of that water becomes part of your body, part of your blood, part of your bones, part of your muscles. Even before the water was part of your tea, it existed for a long time in other places. It has been rain and rivers and oceans and clouds as it moved through the water cycle. And now it has become an essential part of you for a period of time. As you breathe in and out, recognize that every molecule in your body has been soil or stone or sea. Your body is made entirely of elements that have been other things and will be other things again. This may provide you with a revelation that you are not separate or cut off from the rest of nature. So here we are today. Two announcements this morning to get things started. The first, oh gosh darn it. The first, I don't know how this started the other day. There we go. The first is outdoor school. I sent this out in a Canvas message. It really is quite an experience in lots of different ways. An experience of community, experience of being outside, an experience teaching and leading. It's something that I highly recommend. So that application deadline, Wednesday, February 12th. And then extra credit movie I haven't mentioned yet. The extra credit movie section of Canvas is open. You can see the movies that are listed there. You can earn up to 5 points of extra credit with the movies. You can earn half a point for going to the movie with Christine. And Chris, she'll coordinate and lead a conversation after the movie. So you watch the movie, and then you can get half a point by writing a reflection in your journal. There are pages in the back of your journal that are there for your movie reflections. So there'll be 5 of these over the course of the semester. 7 o'clock in the music building, 117 on Monday. Okay, so that's an opportunity for you. So where we are today with class builds on that idea of our story of origins, the idea that we are part of all the other systems on the planet. This will be a theme that we'll continue with next week as well. But as we are given the opportunity for what might be new information or new connections, we need to choose what we're going to do with that. So today's class is about choice. Every day we face thousands of choices, both major choices, minor choices, whether to eat that decadent chocolate brownie or 2 or 3, whether to pursue a new romantic relationship, whether to change careers, or how to address a person that is choosing to be challenging. All kinds of choices. Do I do my homework? Do I not do my homework? What am I going to do with my time? So we're going to use the grocery store example to begin. So thinking about being in a grocery store, can you put yourself there in your mind's eye, your favorite grocery store, whatever that might be? And you have this list, either in your head or in your hand. I like the list in my hand so that I can cross stuff off. But you have a list, the list of things that you need. And then you walk into the grocery store, and grocery stores carry more things than they ever have before, between 30,000 and 40,000 items in each grocery store, right? In the average box grocery store. So you have that list of things that you need, you determined before you go in there, maybe you're on your phone, whatever, is your list. And then you're faced with all these things, right, in the grocery store. So how are you going to decide what's actually going to go into your cart? The things on the list, the things you need, and then you walk by, something that you really love, the ice cream aisle, whatever it is, and it's something that you really want. And so does that thing go into your cart? It wasn't on your list of needs, but then you're faced with this opportunity. So your brain completes these actions of planning and comparing and all the competing items, right? And ultimately leading you to what you take to pay for at the end, to the checkout counter. So how does that happen? How does our brain function to decide? Studies suggest that it relies on 2 separate, different brain regions within your frontal cortex. So there's one that determines the overall value of the item. Now, value might be, it's probably things like the calories that you need. What kind of calories are they? Are they healthy calories? Are they empty calories? So there's lots to think about as far as the value or the risk versus the reward. So sometimes people, that know that their stomach gets upset when they eat dairy still say, well, it's okay. I'm choosing to have an upset stomach because I love cheese. So that's a choice, right? So the risk versus reward of what goes into your grocery cart. And then there's another part of your brain that determines how you'll actually behave. The prevention of bad and the promotion of good. So all of the effort to get the desired result. So in this case, the grocery store case, how much money are you willing and able to spend on the items that go into the cart? How much time are you going to spend in the grocery store? I could spend a lot of time reading labels, comparing products, or am I going to walk in and grab something and put it in my cart and head out? How many calories do you want or need to consume? All of that goes into those choices that you're going to make about your food. So choice is powerful. Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl, pretty famous guy. You might choose to write this down if you think that there's something to be valued in this quote for you. Viktor Frankl was a celebrated Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. He remains best known for his remarkable 1946 psychological memoir titled Man's Search for Meaning. It's a meditation on what Auschwitz, that gruesome experience, taught him as the primary purpose of life, the quest for meaning, which sustained in those that survived. Frankl said, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So we are choosing our destiny. We are choosing our story, like we talked about on Monday. What is your story? So I want to make an important distinction, or a distinction that I have found to be important, deciding versus choosing. So decide, the word itself, I like the study of words. So decide, also related to homicide, suicide, pesticide, herbicide. So side, C-I-D-E, means to cut off. So suicide, to cut off life. Okay. Homicide, to cut off someone else's life, of a Homo sapien. So cutting off. Insecticide, to cut off insects. Decide uses the analytical mind, and the analytical mind only, right? To consider and think and wonder and come to a decision. So it feels like that is cutting off some of the choices that are available. So it feels to me, decide feels very, very limited in some ways because it's just about the logic. For me, choose means that it's a want, a preference, a desire. A choice is more of a grounded feeling, often based in interests or passion, in a gut feeling, some kind of inner wisdom. The root word of choose comes from to taste or to relish. The word shares its ancestry with the word gusto, to act with vigor and zest. So choose for me becomes more of a whole body experience. When we decide, we often opt for the known, or what we can do, the pros and cons list, and then picking one. It's often easier. It's often going with the flow. But when we're choose, we might be saying yes in spite of some fear or some uncertainty. If you think back to the hero's journey that we talked about, choosing to do something that's outside of what is the easy route. It's the way, I choose to get up early so I can eat breakfast. I choose to go into the military service. I choose to stop practicing the religion that I was raised in because it doesn't fit what I believe. I choose to end a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend that's unhealthy. Choosing often takes a lot more. And that's what science tells us. The brain is not trustworthy by itself. Choosing takes more than this. Right? Sometimes in our brains, we make decisions based on too little information, or maybe we have expectations set and then none of the options meet our expectations. So the biases that we carry all are stuck inside our head, all that dualism stuff. So considering big choices in life, relationships, investments of time, energy, or money, job selection, if you make a list of pros and cons and then just choose the one that has the most pros and the least cons, it might be that it doesn't end up being the right thing for you because you left out a bunch of other equipment, right? Our bodies come with a whole lot of equipment, often that we leave untapped. So this is where my particular aha moment, the first time I sat in on this class, this whole thing, I grew up as a list maker, the pros and cons. My dad was an accountant. He taught me to only do things that make sense according to the numbers, according to the pros and cons. I love my dad very much, but I've made a lot of bad decisions based on making pros and cons lists. So sensible doesn't always include sometimes using all of our senses. So what am I talking about? All of this extra other equipment that we often don't use. So your gut contains a second brain. The enteric nervous system lines the gut, containing 100 million neurons, which is more than the spinal cord or the peripheral nervous system. Your second brain is in your gut. Okay, this is kind of hard to wrap our heads around. But we say things that imply that this is a known fact, right? So if you're trying to make a choice and somebody says, well, just go with your gut, right? That's where this second brain is. Go with your gut. Or you have a gut reaction to something. Like when your stomach gets a little bit queasy and you're like, oh, I get it. Like, and it starts in your gut. So this enteric nervous system relies on neurons and neurotransmitters, the same things that are found in our central nervous system. The gut and the brain communicate through hormones and through the immune system. So for instance, you've probably learned about the fight or flight response through the central nervous system. So when that gets triggered and you need to run from a tiger, then this second system shuts down to let your life be saved, right? You've got to put all your energy into running from that tiger. And so you better get going. And so your digestion shuts down, all of your internal organs change the way that they're working, so that your body's energy can be diverted to the situation that's causing the threat. A stress response or a joy response affects our whole bodies because of these different nervous systems that are going through. So here is the connector, the actual nervous system connector, the vagus nerve. It's called vagus. Vagus comes from the word wandering because it is the longest nerve in your body, the only cranial nerve to extend behind the head. You can see it traced, its pattern traced there in the yellow, and it connects all these different parts of our body. Pretty incredible, actually. So when our heart rate changes, our blood pressure changes, our respiration and digestion change, to let our central nervous system take over, in the case of the tiger, it's because of this, the vagus nerve. But that's also what happens when, when you see that person that you really have a little bit of a crush on, you get kind of excited to see them, and your brain thinks, oh, there's that person. And then your heart starts going a little faster and your stomach gets a little queasy. That's why. It's because this nerve that goes all the way down through our bodies, right? It's triggering all of these connections. So you can say things like, oh, that story really, like as you hear something, that story really pulled on my heartstrings. Or people will say, open your heart to that person that's in need. So all of these connections are really useful. And sometimes, because of the stress that we're under these days, our vagus nerve simply doesn't get enough attention because our central nervous system is busy running our bodies all the time. So if we're running from one thing to the next, it's not a tiger that we're feeling threat from. It's this stress of academics, the stress of relationships, the stress of whatever, your parents, whatever your stress is making you run around and do things, that means that your vagus nerve, that whole system is getting shut down, which means your digestion isn't working right, which means that your heart rate is probably faster than it should be on a normal basis. And so the cool thing is that we can unlock the power of our vagus nerve and bring this online so that it's working in our systems all the time. So the way that we can trigger our vagus nerve is by, surprise, surprise, breathing. So when you come into the beginning of class and I ask you to pay attention to your breath, be aware of your breath. The first day that we did this, somebody said, oh, I feel calmer. That's because your vagus nerve has jumped to action. You've given it space to open up and help you. So there are other ways. So breathing is an easy one. You can do that in the hub. You can do that sitting any place. You can do it in your apartment. You can do it at a party. You can just breathe and bring your vagus nerve online, and immediately you're going to be making better decisions when your body is using all of its equipment. Another way that you can trigger it, think right now of your favorite song or a favorite song. There are so many good songs right now. So think of a favorite song. Okay. And now hum it. Yes, really, like out loud, or sing it if you choose to sing it, but do something with your vocal cords. Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. You're triggering, and even if you didn't do it, even if you're just laughing at me doing it, believe it or not, that's triggering your vagus nerve too, okay? So opening ourselves to these possibilities. So other ways that you can do it, splashing cold water on your face, hugging somebody, all of these things bring together this inner alchemy of our bodies that we often forget is there. When we get all hyped up, and we don't know, how to calm down, remembering that we have other equipment and bringing it online to help us can be so, so valuable. So these connections that we have when we think about this, can you get rid of that little thing in the middle maybe? Thank you. Yeah, awesome. So what we need to do is that so your brain is often, in fact, almost always online doing things for you. In fact, it's always. Logic, reason, answers, knowledge. It's useful when you're taking that test and you need to know the correct answer, right? Your brain is there for you. Your heart, the things that you feel, when you feel love, when you are being your true and awesome native self. It's useful when you want to express yourself or pursue the unknown. That's what your heart is here for. And then your intuition, the things that you feel in your gut, the things that you do by instinct, that you're building on past experiences. Your nervous system response is triggered in your intuition. It's useful when you need to make a choice or solve a problem without complete information. So our emotions affect our gastrointestinal system. Our mental health affects and is affected by our gut wellness. So if you're eating lots of Fritos and drinking lots of soda, then your gut wellness isn't so great, and it's going to make your brain feel foggy. And it goes the opposite way. If your brain feels foggy because of this stress that you're experiencing, then your gut isn't going to be so great. Your digestion, the absorption of nutrition that you have the possibility to get out of your food won't happen. This is also where our immune system is located, a lot of that in our gut. So when we are stressed, we often start to feel sick. You're much more susceptible to getting colds when you are stressed because of this gut connection. So this is true for me. I experienced a lot of stress in college because I was in a major that I didn't want to be in, and I didn't have the courage to speak up and say so. And so I just went through a lot of chemistry and a lot of physics and a lot of science. And it was so horrible that it was horrible for me. There are people who were really gifted at those things, and that's not me. And so all of that stress and my digestive system started to shut down and has never turned fully back on, right? I can't digest a lot of different things because of different times of stress in my life. Stress is very powerful. It's more powerful than we think. Stress shows up when I feel like I don't have power over what I'm doing, right? I'm not using my power of choices. Stanford neurobiologist Robert Sapolsky says that chronic stress does lousy things to people's brain. We make ridiculous, stupid decisions during times of stress. Judgment, impulse control, and emotional regulation go out of whack during times of stress because of the effect on our prefrontal cortex. And recent findings show that when we are stressed, we become less empathetic, less compassionate, and less capable of seeing other people's perspectives. So the more we are stressed, the more we get into our own heads, and the less we are likely to connect with other people. And ironically, it's in times of stress that we need connection, right? It's really good. We know that it's really good for people to get stress under control because there will be fewer cases of hypertension or diabetes, he says. But ultimately, an important reason to get individual stress under control is that people will be nicer to one another. So we can manipulate, we can change our social support, right? It's not necessary to have loads of friends, but to have those people that you can really count on so that you can build those. And then in times of stress, you have those connections. And then also those people have you, right? So connections are really vital in the course of all of this. So how we handle stress now in this moment is going to affect our bodies and how we train our bodies to affect or handle stress in the future. So here are a couple of simple thoughts and examples. Okay, do you blank that this class will be a good way to spend your time? Do you think it will be a good way to spend your time? Do you hope it will be a good way to spend your time? Or do you choose that this class will be a good way to spend your time? So talk to your neighbor. What is the difference in those words for you? Who'd like to speak to this? Microphones are around. How are those words different for you? Behind you there, Hannah, there's someone. Thank you.
So I said that think is kind of where you have a kind of if think is like so when you're kind of not choosing, but you're not hoping, but you're expecting. Sorry, there's the word I was thinking of. You're expecting that the class is going to be kind of good. Hoping is that, well, obviously you're really hoping to, and that's you have kind of a positive perspective on the class. But I think the best one, in my opinion, is choose. And choosing is kind of where you use that, where they always tell you in writing, your active voice, right? You know, you kind of choose and you
Mhm.
go out of your way to make sure you have a good way or make sure that class is a good way to spend your time.
Yeah, nice. Does anybody want to expand on that? Thank you for saying that. Hannah, or Sarah, could you come this way? Thank you. Oh, two people. Great. Go ahead.
Yes. Um, I think that like choose is something that like you pick for yourself. So it's like you're putting in the energy and it's like since we're here, it's like choosing to spend your time in like a productive way and like participating and stuff. So I think it's good to choose for this class, especially. I think hope is like not knowing, but like you're trying to seek something kind of. And I think is like just the think. I don't know.
Think, right?
Hope,
It
yeah.
kinda- yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's one more person here. Thank you. Yeah. Good job.
I kind of think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So
Mm.
like if you say that you think it'll be a good way to spend your time, then like you're more likely to actually make it worthwhile. I feel like hoping that it'll be worth your time is like kind of putting the power outside of you. So it might end up being the least effective, but I feel like choosing for it to be a good way to spend your time is like the most powerful and the most effective, like everyone else was saying, because like you're consciously actively making the decision
Mhm.
to make it worth your time, even if you originally didn't think so. But like because you're choosing to do so, like it will be because it's what you're making it worth your time, not just like putting the power outside of you. You're really like doing what you can as an individual so that it will be.
Mhm. Excellent. All three of you. Well said. Thank you. Yeah, hope puts a lot of pressure on me, right? Whereas it's not really up to me whether you choose to make this a good class or not. And this is just an example, right? We talked about the hero's journey. The hero doesn't just say, well, I think I'll go ahead and, I've made a list of pros and cons, but they dive right in. And so can you dive right into the experiences that you have chosen for yourself, right? This was also in your journal, right? I will choose to do my best, right? Choose could be very much in that first line. And so taking responsibility for your actions, with great power comes great responsibility. So with the power to choose, then now that you have the secret of the power of choice and your vagus nerve, now you have this responsibility to put yourself into the power. Choice is the operating system of our lives. We have all of this information. We have our beliefs more than anything else that determine our lives and our destinies. And we each get to choose those beliefs. Choice is the operating system of our lives. So we talked about this going backwards just a moment. Dualism, superior and inferior, choosing one way of seeing. There, some of you spoke about the most challenging ones to flip for you, right? Why don't we go back to that conversation for just a moment with your partner? Which of these pairings was hardest to see the opposite? And we'll have a discussion in the room about some of those for just a couple minutes. So go ahead and chat with your partner. So remembering that I don't have all the answers and remembering that you all are teachers, we'll enter into this conversation about the words that are hard to flip, or if you have other word pairs in mind that you'd like to discuss, that's cool too. So who would like to present one that was challenging to flip the story on, superior and inferior? Yes. Mm.
Without emotion, like, I just feel like there's not like a lot of like passion or anything.
Mm. She's talking about reason and emotion. She's saying that emotion, without emotion, there isn't passion and connection, but reason is important too. So is there anybody who also was having a conversation about reason and emotion? Oh, folks over here, would you like to offer any words to expand? I know you all couldn't hear what she said. I'm sorry about that.
I think kind of both of them go a lot in hand. I'm an emotional person. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. So I think all my reason is reflected on my emotions. So it kind of goes in tandem together. So it's not necessarily that I can choose one or the other.
Mhm.
But all my sense of reasoning comes from emotional feel and like how I project myself.
Mm, mhm. Well said, thank you. Anybody else want to expand on that? Yeah, thanks, sir.
Well, we kind of thought it was like situational. Like reason can be very beneficial in certain situations. If you're having a heart to heart with someone, emotion might be a better, path. You could argue that reason is the only way you can get through emotion. You could also argue that you really need to feel your emotions. So I think it's really situational, and it just depends on how you want to look at it.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else about that word pairing, or should we move to another word pairing? Okay. Who has another word pairing that was challenging for you? That made you wrestle in your head about it?
One that me and my friends were talking about was up and down. I
Mm.
feel like even if you try to put down as superior, it'd be like, oh, you're going down to have more room to go back up. It's like, I don't really ever see a situation where you'd have like down as superior. I don't know. I feel like when you think about up, it's like moving up in like any aspect of your life, whether that's like a job, whether that's your health. Like, we just always saw like down as like, even if you go down, it's like you just have more room to go up. Like your
go up
goal is to
again.
still go up. So that's one
Interesting.
thing.
Cool. I like that thought. Who wants to talk about that a little bit? Yeah. Somebody right there in the front row of that section. So.
I get what she's saying, but I also think like down could be like if you want to lose weight, you're going down on like pounds, or like for me, I did track, so like going down on my speed, how long it took me to run, like going down was more of an accomplishment. So I guess I could see that as superior.
Mm. Mhm. Sweet. Anyone else want to speak to up and down?
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Mariella.
I was thinking of like tensing up versus calming down. I feel like
Ooh.
those two offer like a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, right. And they could both be important depending on the situation.
exactly.
Yeah, sweet. Mhm. Are you willing to have a follow-up question, Mariella? You,
I mean, I don't think I have a question. I think it's more in perspective.
no, I have a question for you.
Oh, yes, I'm willing. Yeah, go ahead.
So when you are performing, are there times, can you give examples of when either tensing up or calming down are important for you?
That's a good one. For me, I think it's important for me to calm down before I go on stage if I'm performing, but also the adrenaline is able to push me to like a limit that I don't think I can reach when I'm not feeling that adrenaline, especially for when I have to sing. Like the notes are harder to hit when I don't feel that adrenaline.
Mm, interesting. So it's not, thank you for
Yes.
being willing to fill in some more gaps. Yes?
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Audrey.
I sort of have one. So going off of the up and down one, for
Uh-huh.
me, whenever I think about it, I think about like slowing down
Mhm.
and, you know, getting all up and ready. That is more stressful to me than slowing down is. So in that example, I think down is good.
Yeah. Thank you. So the point of these conversations, right, is being able to see the value of both, being able to understand that in order to perform, the up and the down help in those situations. In Audrey's example of having different times when those things are important, understanding that one is harder and being able to choose to put more energy there. So the idea is that you can change or understand your perspectives. You can choose to see both sides. You can choose to understand that all of it is important in our experience as we are moving through the world. So that's where the power is. That's where the choice becomes power. Many of you, putting myself into your shoes, and I choose to do that quite a lot because I think that that just makes me have a more full human experience. Thinking about choosing the way that you move through your social lives in college, reflecting on this power of choice and your relationships, and how your relationships play into that power of choice, right? So are you making choices for yourself, or are you letting other people make choices for you as you are going through this experience at this point in your lives? The sense of belonging that we get in groups is really valuable. I mean, that's part of our so deep human experience, right? Having that sense of belonging, having that sense of being part of something, is really, really vital. In fact, it is vital. Humans are made for connection. I've mentioned that. So those connections bring us value. We can choose those. And then also the time alone. I can think back to college, like I couldn't spend alone time in my room because inevitably there was somebody knocking on the door being like, hey, we're watching Saturday Night Live, like come on down. And there was no quiet alone time. So if I chose to find alone time, I had to be really creative about it. So how do you rejuvenate yourself? And really, it comes down to this question of who is making your choices? Is it that person, Mick, who was coming to say, like, come watch Saturday Night Live? Is she making the choice and I just get up and like walk out and go watch? Or am I like in my body using all of this equipment that I have and thinking, you know what? I really need to sleep. Or, you know what? I really need that social connection. I am going to go watch. Thinking about how this power of choice, going back to early in the semester, it was the questions class that someone in the room here, a young woman said, my biggest question is, where am I going to eat tonight? What am I going to do tonight? And that is a big question because that power of choice is so interesting. And if we are in it, if we are living it, and understanding that it is our superpower, then that's pretty cool. But if we're going with the flow and not realizing it and giving that power, as this young woman said earlier, like if you're giving up that power of choice, then we're losing out on an opportunity. Might want to write this quote down. Destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for. How do you feel about that quote? I have you write it down so you can think about it later too. Include it in your journals if you so choose. But what do you think about it? Any impressions first off?
Walk all the way down here. Um, I've actually been thinking about this a lot recently, and I've always believed that my destiny was fulfilled for me already. Like, life brought me to here to like decide what I'm gonna be. But I was telling my lab, like, once I really was happy and like where I'm at in life is when I started running towards things and running towards every choice that I had and every opportunity that Penn State gave me. And I believe it really helped me like define and made myself so much happier. So this quote is like hitting really at home for me right now.
Thank you, Liz. So visiting Juniata College with my son, this is their motto. Think about who you are. What would happen if you choose to eat breakfast? What would happen if you choose to decline an invitation to go out with friends? What do you choose, or what happens if you choose to put away your phone while walking across campus? What happens if you end relationships that aren't healthy? What if you choose to put yourself in places you like with people you respect and that people respect you? What if you choose to show up to your life with your full being? We are our choices. Thanks very much. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you.